مساء الخير لكل مشاهدينا، مساء الخير لمشاهدي واتساب ميديا نتورك. دايما ببرنامج هي بنستضيف امرأة عربية أمريكية لتخبرنا عن حياتها ولتخبرنا عن رحلتها بمجال النجاح. ودايما بنقول انه دايما التميز مع المرأة بيبدأ بأول خطوة. ويلكم تو هي، وضيفتي اليوم هي القاضي ومؤسسة جمعية EmpowerME Project. Welcome to هي. Zainab Baydoun is such an inspirational woman. She's someone who is strategic in her decisions and is keen to create a lasting impact on her job and community. Zainab Baydoun is a senior administrative law judge for the state of Michigan, presiding over complex, multifaceted administrative hearing for the Department of Health and Human Services and the Bureau of Community and Health System. In 2018, she founded the EmpowerME Project, a nonprofit educational and legal aid organization focused on assisting and empowering marginalized women to alleviate the legal barriers that may be hindering their path to independence. She is involved with several other nonprofit and community organizations. Welcome to Hiya, and we will be back with Judge Zainab Baydoun.
The One, we are business consultants who equip leaders to lead at their highest level while building teams that work together and support their team and the leadership. We deliver customized business solutions that fit your company's needs, including business development and customized process solutions. Contact us today. Thank you.
Welcome back to Hiya. I'd like to welcome the Administrative Law Judge, Zainab Baydoun. It's welcome to Hiya. And it's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, my first impression, when I first met you and I asked you, what do you do for a living? And you said, I'm a judge. And my jaw dropped. I mean, I was in shock. I mean, you looked very young. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that told you that. I'm sure you have some interesting reactions. Would you like to share some with our viewers?
You know, I think that's a common reaction that I receive quite often when I'm introducing myself to new people for the first time, or if I'm at an event where I don't know a majority of the people there, or somewhere outside of the community where people might not know me or know what I do, and I introduce myself, there is a little bit of a shock that occurs at first. And definitely in practice, there's a little bit of that surprise as well.
Is it more in practice?
I think it's more in practice, and it's definitely more in practice when there are attorneys who are appearing before me in my cases who have probably been licensed to practice law for longer than I've been on this earth. And so I think for them it might be even more of a surprise and a shock.
Yeah.
But once we get started with the case, and once, you know, I take the position that I have, and we get going with the case presentations, and I take my role and we start our cases, then I think that the surprise and the shock quickly changes to, okay, she really is the
Yeah.
the judge who's going to be presiding over our case today. And
Sure. Do you feel like sometimes you have to be more assertive? I mean, to get your message across.
I think definitely, especially when I am presiding over cases and there are attorneys who have been in practice for many years and who may not be receptive to having a young female as their administrative law judge trying their case or overseeing their case, then yes, it's definitely important to assert your authority and to make it clear that you are in control of your own hearing room or courtroom. And you do need to assert a certain kind and level of authority to make it clear that you are going to maintain control of the hearing that's happening, and there does need to be a level of respect that is to the bench and the tribunal.
Yeah, with every successful woman, there is a story always. I mean, you got your bachelor degree from University of Michigan, and you graduated in 2010 from law school, Wayne State University. And prior, I mean, take us back in time before you became a judge. Tell us the story.
So when I was in law school, I was a law clerk at the Department of the Attorney General, which is the prosecutor for the state of Michigan. And I clerked in the division that dealt with child abuse and neglect cases. So I spent 2 years in law school as a clerk in that division. And I sort of knew while I was in law school and having the experience that I did working for the state that at some point in my career, I wanted to go back to public service. So I wanted to get back.
So you knew?
Yeah, I knew that eventually I wanted to get there. How I was going to get there, I wasn't sure at the time. In 2010, the market for law graduates wasn't that great, and it was really difficult for people to find jobs. So there wasn't as many opportunities as there might be now. The economy wasn't that great. So when I graduated law school, I didn't have an opportunity waiting for me at the Attorney General's office or with any other government entity or agency. So I worked at a local law firm. Friend of the family, Ali Dagger, he owns a local law firm here in Dearborn, and he's known my family for a really long time, and he sort of took me under his wing, and he said, you know, come to my office and you can work here. You'll learn the ropes. I'll teach you what you need to learn, and you'll take cases on through the firm, and you'll get your feet wet and sort of learn as you go.
So I'm sure you learned a lot.
Yeah, so when I first started working at the firm as an associate attorney, I would get cases passed down to me from the partners. So Ali would pass a case down for me that maybe he didn't have that much time for, and I would work on it. Or at the time, the other partner in the firm would also give me cases that came in for clients, and I would handle them.
Was it like a full-time job?
It was sort of a full-time job, but my work was dependent on the cases that came in. So I routinely was given cases at the last minute and sort of like, Zainab, here's this file. You need to go argue a motion for summary disposition tomorrow. And I would say, no, wait, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. So it was really a learn as you go process, but it sort of gave me the confidence that, okay, I'm going to court. I don't really know much about this file, but I'm going to stay late today, review it, work really hard, figure out what the case is about, learn it, and then go tomorrow in front of this judge who I don't know and don't have any exposure to and just argue it.
How old were you back then?
So at that time, out of law school, I was probably 25, and I didn't have any experience working at a law firm before that. So I was learning many different things as I went along.
Okay, so when did you discover, like, I'm not sure I like this or not?
So I sort of always knew that being in private practice wasn't really a good fit for me.
Okay.
While I liked the diversity of the cases that we worked on at a private firm and, you know, having experience in different areas of the law, I sort of knew that I didn't want to maintain a client base, and I didn't want to build a book of business, and I didn't want to sort of work on the business aspect of being a lawyer in private practice. So I knew that eventually I wanted to get back to what I believed to be something that was a little bit more stable and secure, and that was working for the government.
Okay, so you applied for this job to be a judge, or did you get appointed to it?
So I knew I was ready to make a career move, and at that time I was, just job searching. So I would search for jobs online. I would search for federal jobs. I would search for state jobs, and just sort of see what was out there and what was available and what opportunities were out there. I came across a posting on the state of Michigan website for an administrative law examiner. That's the working classification title for it. And our actual job title is administrative law judge. And I said, oh, this sounds really interesting. So I pulled up the posting, I read about the type of work that is involved, and I just said, I'm gonna try. I said, there's no reason why I shouldn't try. So I submitted my application, and I interviewed with a 3-person panel of administrators for the state. And I got called back for a job offer in February of 2013.
So that was easy. I mean, you just got the job, and
I was, from what I understood, I was up against I don't know how many different candidates. But yeah, I interviewed, and
so it looked appealing to you.
It looked appealing, and for me, I was intrigued because it was so different than anything that I had previously experienced. And I didn't have a lot of exposure to administrative law prior to submitting that application.
So did you develop the passion for this kind of work after you started actually working?
I think I've always had passion for the law and passion for public service. And I think that sort of develops greater when you're in a position that you're able to accomplish your passion, or to every day do something that contributes to the passion that you have. So I would say, it's definitely grown stronger in the past 7 years that I've been with the state in this position.
Okay, for the people that don't know, what are the main functions of administration law?
So I'm an administrative law judge, and there are different, I preside over cases for state agencies. So I review decisions made by agencies and departments of the state of Michigan and determine whether those actions were correct. So in my particular division, I'm responsible for cases involving the Department of Health and Human Services and the Bureau of Community and Health Systems within LARA, the Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Division. So in Bureau of Community and Health Systems cases, that agency and department regulate and govern licensed adult foster care facilities, child daycare centers, assisted living facilities. Those types of licensed facilities are governed by state statute and administrative rules. So if you're applying to open a daycare center, or if you are applying to open an adult foster care home, then you're required to comply with licensing rules that are in place by the state of Michigan.
Okay.
If the state determines that you are in violation of those licensing rules and wants to seek to revoke your license or shut down your facility for violation of those rules, then you are entitled to have an appeal and a hearing, and that becomes before someone like me.
And this is what you do?
So that is one of the case types that I do.
Okay.
Yes. Also, if you apply for a license and you're denied for whatever reason, those cases also appear before me.
Okay.
So that's licensing from the Bureau of Community and Health Systems side, and then on the DHHS side, I preside over Central Registry expunction cases, the Child Abuse and Neglect Central Registry expunction cases, as well as some state disability assistance cases. So it's sort of like Social Security disability, but at the state level.
So do you find this kind of work fulfilling?
I do. I definitely find it fulfilling. Although there's always going to be one party and one person or one entity who's not happy with any decision that I make. I can't rule for both people or both parties, right? So there's always going to be someone who's unhappy with me and unhappy with the decision I make. But I like to think that the decisions that I do make have a profound impact on the people's lives who appear before me. So if I am, and a lot of the cases that I see are kind of sad. So we see, you know, facilities that may be mistreating elderly, or that may be mistreating or neglecting mentally challenged individuals who are in need of care, or children in daycare centers, or daycare centers and facilities who may not be operating at the levels of cleanliness, or, you know, employees of those facilities who may be mistreating children. So I like to think that the decisions I make are really doing service to the public, because if there is this facility that is violating these rules and that should not be open and caring for vulnerable populations like children and elderly and physically and mentally handicapped, and I like to think I'm doing my part in.
So you feel it's rewarding.
It is definitely rewarding.
Yeah.
And as it relates to the child abuse and neglect central registry cases, those are exceptionally sad and tragic. And I see cases where children are sometimes physically and sexually abused, and individuals who are accused of perpetrating child abuse or neglect against children, and now are seeking to be removed from this central registry list. So my job in that respect is fulfilling, because I'm either doing my part to protect children from being exposed to that type of action in the future, or I am assisting the individual who may have been improperly placed on this list by the state of Michigan.
Yes.
So it sort of goes both ways.
What is the most challenging part of all of this, of your work, as a judge?
So I think for me, in the last 7 years, what I found to be most challenging is sort of removing my own personal feeling or what my own personal opinion is on any given case. In our administrative hearings, we are not a court of equity. So we don't have what they call equitable jurisdiction. So I can't rule for one party just because, or I can't rule for one party just because I believe the law might not be fair, or just because this person is in this situation and it may not have been their fault. Our guidelines are pretty strict. So
you cannot be impartial in any way. And yes.
So we're impartial in terms of the parties who appear before us, but we cannot be impartial in terms of deviating from what the state law and what the administrative rules actually say. So if there's a rule that says, the children in a daycare can't be left alone unsupervised.
Okay.
But for whatever reason on this particular day, there may have been something going on that may be beyond the control of the licensee, but the child was injured because he was unsupervised.
Okay.
So while I may think or say to myself, okay, you know, it was an accident, it really wasn't, you know, intentional, the facts that I have to stick to are the child was left alone unsupervised and he was injured.
So the rule, is that
The
what
rule.
The rule.
So
okay.
the rule.
Okay.
It's very state statute and rule based.
So when it comes to some of the cases that you handle, okay, how do you feel, what about if, I can't say the question, ever come across a case when you know what the truth is and still you cannot use your personal statement or judgment?
You know, I don't know if I would phrase it in that way.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, there's definitely been times where I may have wanted personally to rule a different way, but because I know what my role is and because I know what my limitations are as a state administrative law judge, and because I know I am bound by whatever to review whether the state acted correctly. And if the state acted correctly and followed its law and policy, then no matter what my personal opinion is on the matter, I can't rule in any other way.
Okay, okay. Have you ever experienced sexism in your field? And if yes, would you like to put men in your field in check respectfully?
So as an administrative law judge, and with my colleagues in particular, I haven't really had that type of experience.
Okay.
But I could say that since I've been practicing as an attorney for the past 10 years or so, there's definitely been situations where, whether it be a former client of mine or whether it be an attorney and opposing counsel who may have made, you know, some inappropriate comments, I think definitely as women, there's a lot of exposure to what I would find to be inappropriate comments and statements, and sort of advances that are not really warranted. So I would think so.
So what's your advice to women who are dealing with this, with sexism at work?
Definitely speak out about it, and definitely don't stand down, and definitely don't brush it under the rug. Because the more we bring to light these types of situations, the more real they become and the more out there they are. And the more, I think the easier it is for people to talk about them. When you're first starting out as an attorney and you're young and you might not know the ropes, or you might not know, you know, the ins and outs of the court system or your law firm or wherever you are, you might be nervous and you might be scared to speak out about something that happened to you that may be inappropriate, because you may be afraid of what that could result in. You may be afraid, oh my God, if I say something about this, am I going to lose my job? Are they going to look at me differently?
It's the fear.
Are they, yeah, it's fear. Are they going to accuse me of just, you know, being too sensitive or, you know, creating problems? And no, there are boundaries that I think men in the legal field, and I think men in any field, in any arena, need to understand. There are boundaries, and it's not okay to cross certain boundaries. And if you cross a boundary and you make a woman uncomfortable, then she should be able to, and confident and comfortable enough to speak out about it.
So how do you bring more awareness to that? How do you do that?
I think dialogue is really important. I think speaking to younger generations and newer attorneys and even college students and high school students about the importance of boundaries and appropriateness in the work setting, in the workplace, and about harassment and what to do about harassment, opens doors and opens dialogue and makes things easier.
And to know it's not okay.
Puts issues at the forefront, yes, definitely,
yes.
so that they're not swept under the rug.
Yeah, we have a question for you from one of our viewers.
Oh, great.
Did you experience discrimination as a woman and as a Muslim?
So for me, I think when people meet me, they might not know I'm not visibly Muslim. I don't wear hijab, but I have this name that is, you know, kind of weird.
Both your first name and last
my
name.
My first name and last name. I started my job and people sort of walk by my office looking at my name tag and they're like, what is she?
Who
you know
is
what
she?
I mean?
What is she?
So, and for many people in my office in particular, I was one of the first Muslims they've ever met.
Oh.
And they didn't have any exposure to Muslims. So, because I'm not outwardly Muslim, because I don't wear hijab, I don't know if I faced discrimination, religious discrimination, in my work and professional setting.
Yeah.
But
your name speaks.
But
for
definitely, I have heard some comments of, oh, where is she? Where did she come from? Or, you know, how did she get here? Or why is she here? Or, you know, that sort of thing. I walked by, not in my office, but in an office in our building that is has attorneys in it, and they gather together sometimes and they practice. And I just heard some things that were appalling. I heard people talking very poorly about Muslims, talking very poorly about, you know, Arab Americans, talking very poorly about minorities, talking very poorly about pretty much anybody who was not what they believed to be American or white. And I walked by and I thought, what would I do? Like, it made me think, what would I do if I was hearing this in my courtroom, or if these people were actually appearing before me? Like, how difficult would that be for me to sort of set aside everything that I just heard about their comments and their statements that they were making? How would I be able to do it?
Yeah.
Thankfully, I haven't had that experience, but listening to that just made me more aware that there is discrimination, and that there are many people who don't want to see people like you and me in a successful position, and they don't want to see us prosper, and they don't want to see people like us
That is the reality.
moving forward and advancing in all areas, in all professions. So definitely, it makes you more aware of how prevalent these issues are.
Yeah.
And while I may not have faced them directly, I have heard stories of friends and family members who have. So it's definitely out there, and it definitely needs to be tackled as a community issue, I think.
It definitely exists, for sure. Tell us about the most powerful case that you worked on or experienced in your field.
I mean, I think that a lot of my cases have impact. But there was a case that I had, you know, maybe when I first started working as an administrative law judge. And for me, it had impact because of what happened leading up to it. So the reason it came before me, it was an adult foster care licensing case. And the reason that it came before me is because there was a resident who died.
Okay.
And the resident who was at this facility, who was supposed to be looked after by the staff, was not looked after. And the staff member was incorrectly administering medications to the point where there was too much medication being administered and eventually led to resident's death. So I often see cases like that. And for me, those have profound impact, because when I see a case like that, I realize how important my job actually is. And I realize the importance of the work that we do in my office on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I recently had another case where at a licensed juvenile detention facility, someone was not doing their job, and there was a child who, because he was not supervised, somehow was able to hang himself in the facility.
That's terrible.
So the subject matter that the cases that appear before me and the subject matter that I deal with on a daily basis is sometimes very heavy. So I don't have one particular case, but there's been so many.
So you're saying most of them are powerful?
The majority of them are powerful.
Yeah.
I had another central registry case where a child was exposed to drugs in the home and ingested a lethal amount of drugs and died. And it was a result of improper supervision on the part of the parents.
Negligence.
But when you see those cases, you start to see the bigger issues that communities have, and it's not just our community, but it's communities all across the state of Michigan and all across, the country. Issues with poverty, issues with substance abuse, drug abuse, issues with sexual abuse, sexual harassment, sexual abuse towards children, physical abuse towards children and adults. So it opens your eyes to a lot of problems that exist in this world that sometimes we're sheltered from. because we may not experience them. So we might not know that they exist, but seeing them on a daily basis and sort of seeing the problems that are out there and the issues that people face on a daily basis and the struggles that they have has a profound impact on me personally, and how I choose to live my life, and how the gratitude that I have for being on this earth every day.
It affects
Yeah,
in
definitely.
in a positive way, in a way.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're constantly being exposed to that type of work, these cases that I do, so they're not all that bad. So they're not all that bad, but there's definitely some that weigh heavily on you.
Yeah, but I think it's a learning experience, as it is, from all these people, all these cases. It is a learning experience after all.
Well, you get to see so many different people from so many walks of life.
Yes.
And you also see that many of them, no matter where they came from, whether they came from families who have been in the system,
Yes.
in the child protective system, in the foster care system, or in the criminal system, or whether they come from very wealthy, affluent families who don't have any criminal history, don't have any child abuse and neglect history, they face the same problems.
Yes.
And it sort of doesn't matter where you come from.
Yeah.
You have the potential to face these same problems too.
Exactly. Well, they say no community is immune, no poor or rich. Everybody can.
Yeah, those
have the same
issues definitely don't
definitely.
discriminate.
How do you spot a lie? And I'm sure you get a lot of them.
So I've gotten a lot better at it. I didn't used to be this good when I first started this administrative law judge job, but I think that for me, the more interaction that I've had with different kinds of people, and the more I'm able to assess body language,
Yes.
And body movements and mannerisms and tone of voice, I think are really important too. So I make it a point that when I'm in my, in my box up top, and when I have a witness in the witness stand next to me and they're being questioned by the attorney, I make it a point to look at my witness as they are speaking, or look at the witness as they're speaking and as they're giving their information, and sort of look at the whole witness, not just listen to what they're saying, because listening to what they're saying might not be the most important thing. So you have to assess the whole thing.
It's a
so I'm
combination.
So you're listening, but you're also using your eyes and watching. You're watching hand movements, you're watching
Gesture.
facial expressions, you're watching body language. You're listening to tone of voice and speech. You're listening to, how fast someone's speaking or the pitch in their voice.
Right,
So after a while, you start to pick up on some common traits that you'll see commonly when people aren't necessarily telling the truth.
Okay.
And for me, I sort of, I'll sort of probe them a little more. I'll ask a few more questions, or, I will ask them to clarify or to follow up. And when someone has an answer that is rehearsed, or when
Right.
someone, comes with a script and you give them a question that they should know the answer to if what they're saying really happened, but they're not able to answer it, or they get really flustered, then
So
you sort of know
You can tell.
that, okay, maybe
Yeah.
something isn't really lining up.
Yeah. Well, as women, we have come a long way. We prospered in every aspect of life, right? I think now
Yeah.
in the U.S. We have more women serving in the Congress than ever before.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but
And
we
so
still-
inspiring.
Yeah, it is very inspiring. But still, we feel like women in the U.S. and maybe globally, they feel like the gender equality. It's not really. There is gender inequality. What do you think the most maybe challenge facing women nowadays, especially in the U.S.?
So I think we definitely need to make sure that our voices are continuously being heard loud and clear.
Yeah.
I think that if there is a mission and a goal that we have as women, it is to stay united. I think united is key. united and staying united and actually supporting one another from a genuine perspective, from a genuine aspect too, not just on the surface like, oh, I support women. No, how are you supporting women? What are you doing to support and empower and encourage women? If you're interested in running for office, or if you have a friend who's interested in running for office, what are you doing to help her?
Yes.
You can do so many different things. You don't have to support her just financially. You can give her exposure. You can introduce her to people who might be her constituents at one point. You can talk about her to friends and families and tell people about her and what her platform is, and really support and share and encourage. I think so. Definitely unity. We need to make sure that, like I said, that our voices are continuously being heard loud and clear, and to also make people aware that we're not going anywhere. And that any attempt...
We're definitely not going
anywhere.
anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. And if anything, in a united way, we're just going to grow stronger. And we're just going to be more impactful in the work that we do and in the passions that we have.
Yes.
So to sort of make it clear that we're not going anywhere, and no matter what the attempt is to silence us, it's not going to work. So I don't know what the way to do that is, but I guess we try and work on it on a daily basis.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to talk about Arab American women, and do you think Arab American women have the freedom to choose who they become?
I would hope that they do. I'm so thankful and fortunate and blessed that I grew up in a household where I was encouraged to pursue whatever career and whatever educational path that I had passion for.
Yes.
And I would hope that other women and other young girls who are now sort of trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives are also encouraged to make those choices too. And so that they're encouraged to pursue career paths that might not be traditional.
As well, you're saying that, but how can you get rid of the stigma that not every girl has to be a doctor, or every daughter has to be a lawyer? I mean, they can choose their own profession, so they'll succeed. You know.
I think it's definitely important for the younger generation, the high school students, the college students, to be engaged in the community so that they have exposure to women in professions that might not be traditional. So while I took maybe a more traditional route and went to law school, I have in my adult life have encountered so many women who have found success in so many different ways and in so many diverse fields.
Yes.
I know entrepreneurs, florists who have proven to be so successful and created businesses. I know pastry chefs who are winning awards at we recently, with the Arab American Professionals Network, recently awarded a pastry chef who has been nominated for national awards.
That's amazing when we hear that.
Yeah, so we have women who are pursuing areas and pursuing professions that might not be traditional, but are still finding success. Yes. And I think if we highlight them and encourage them and give them a platform to spread their message, I think that it opens dialogue for the younger generation to sort of, and encourages them to explore areas that they may have passion for that might not be traditional.
Yes.
So journalism, anything. You don't have to.
It doesn't have to.
You
be
don't have to be a doctor
Yes.
or a lawyer to find
Yeah,
success.
yes.
And really, I think what's really important is not pressuring children and young students and college students to pursue career paths just because they may be, culturally acceptable.
Yeah.
You have to have passion for what you're doing.
Well, they can be financially secured, as we talked before, but they might not be happy or fulfilled.
Exactly.
In their work,
so you can have financial
Yeah.
success and you can have job security and job stability. But if you're going to work every day and you don't have passion for what you're doing, and you don't have it, it's not in your heart, what you're doing is not coming from your heart and your passion, then no amount of financial security and financial success is going to make you happy as a whole person.
Absolutely.
So I think, especially for Arab American communities, I think we need to focus less on financial security and stability, and more on success as a whole, and that there's more to being successful than just having money.
Yes, yes. We have a question for you from Mahdi. Can law be a part-time job?
I think law can be whatever you want it to be. I think that it all depends on what you make it. I know lawyers who don't practice law. I know lawyers who work in real estate. I know lawyers who work for the government. I know lawyers who became judges.
So, but it can be a
yeah,
part-time
definitely,
job.
definitely it can be. It all depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
It all depends on it. It's all what you make of it. So your life essentially is what you want it to be.
Yes.
So if you want to go to law school and practice law part-time and do something else the other part of the time, then you can do that.
Yes, yes. So that's good to know.
Yeah, you can definitely make it happen.
And before we, continue, we have to take a break. But we have to talk about, of course, Hia mentor, Judge Zainab. She, agreed to volunteer some of her time to mentor one of our female viewers. So if you like to be mentored by her, email us and tell us why you want to be mentored by her. And the email is hiamentor@gmail.com, and we will be back.
The One, we are business consultants who equip leaders to lead at their highest level while building teams that work together and support their team and the leadership. We deliver customized business solutions that fit your company's needs, including business development and customized process solutions. Contact us today. Thank you.
Welcome back with Judge Zainab. We're going to talk about your project, EmpowerME Project. Okay, tell me what inspired you.
So the EmpowerME Project, for those of you who don't know, it is a registered 501c3, a nonprofit organization whose focus is to assist marginalized women and domestic violence victims to alleviate the legal barriers that may be hindering their paths to independence. So our project has two components. We have an educational component and a legal services component. In December 2018, I launched the educational component of the project. And the educational component of the project is really providing women with education and knowledge on and information on what their legal rights are in various situations that they may encounter. So whether it be issues they may be facing regarding child support, child custody, domestic relations issues like PPOs, divorces, bankruptcy issues, immigration issues, social security disability issues, landlord-tenant issues. So our volunteer attorneys who have signed on to volunteer their time with our project will provide information to women on various areas of the law and how they can use the law as a resource and a tool to become independent and to feel empowered in the choices that they're making in their lives. So just a little brief history. The EmpowerMe Project, like I said, December 2018, we launched the education component. And we launched with what I called a Power Up series, where we partner with local nonprofit organizations that are already established and that already have a client base where they service women. Our first collaborative community partner was Zaman International, who's now made world international attention for the amazing work that they're doing there in assisting marginalized women and children, you know, who are living in extreme poverty. Through Zaman International, they have a Boost program. It's a vocational skills program. So some of the women who are clients and receiving services through Zaman participate in this vocational skills program there, where they learn either culinary skills or they may learn sewing skills. So the women who receive services at Zaman are gaining skills that are helping them become independent and self-sufficient. So what I did is through the Power Up series, the EmpowerME Project, we partner with organizations like Zaman, where I'll have attorneys who volunteer their time and provide panel session, Q&A seminars for the women who receive services at Zaman. What we found partnering with organizations like Zaman and Access is that many women who come from marginalized communities or who are victims of domestic violence don't have information or correct information on what their legal rights are. And they're often misinformed or just don't have any information at all about their rights with respect to divorce, their rights with respect to custody of children or child support or immigration. And many times the information that they are receiving is coming from someone who does not have their best interest at heart. So if they're in this domestic violence situation or an unhealthy relationship, many times the information that they're given comes from the person who has placed them in that situation, so may come from the abuser. So the goal of the project is to provide legal information for people. And the educational component of the project is to provide women with basic legal information on their legal rights and what they are entitled to under the laws in the state of Michigan. So our attorneys go into places like Zaman. We have panels where we have attorneys from different practice areas come in, answer questions, and provide.
This is what you did in your first initiative.
Yeah. So for the first year, we held 2 or 3, I believe, Power Up series where our attorneys went in-house to Zaman. So our volunteer attorneys who maybe practiced in the criminal, maybe expunging a criminal record or immigration or landlord-tenant or family law, went to Zaman and did a seminar, gave them information, provided them with education on various aspects of the law, answered questions that they may have had for specific legal issues that they were facing. We had 2 rounds of that. Then in December of 2019, just about a month ago, we hosted our first public event. It was a legal clinic and resource fair. And I was so inspired by the number of resource organizations and the number of attorneys who reached out to me wanting to volunteer their time.
You had good panelists.
We ended up having a great panel with 4 amazing and highly accomplished and distinguished panelists, including Judge Charlene Elder of the Wayne County Circuit Court. We had Ms. Zanelle Brown, the Wayne County Court Administrator. We had a representative from Access, the supervisor for the Victims of Crime program. We had a representative from the Michigan Legal Help website, which is an amazing resource for those of you who don't know. The Michigan Legal Help website is an amazing legal resource that anyone can access. It's available to the public. It's online, michiganlegalhelp.org. It provides extensive information for various legal topics if you are representing yourself and can't afford an attorney. So they also have self-service centers at different courts where you can go in and talk to someone and they can help you step by step work out your own legal issue by yourself if you don't have an attorney or if you can't afford an attorney. So we had a representative from there on our panel who were there providing information to our attendees. We also had health screenings provided by Beaumont Hospital and the Lebanese American Medical Society. I had 12 amazing attorneys coming to all volunteering their time, and we're providing one-on-one legal consultations for the women who were in attendance. And they range from various practice areas. I'm so happy that you attended. Thank you for your support.
I loved it, by the way. It was very good.
So we had so many different attorneys, and we had a resource fair where community resource organizations came together and came to our event and provided information about the critical resources that their organizations provide for women in need, including First Step, which is a Wayne County domestic violence shelter, Access, the Wayne County Friend of the Court. We had Michigan Lakeshore Legal Aid, the Michigan Legal Help, Access, Saman International was there and represented. So it was just such a great and inspiring day.
It was very inspiring, yes.
Just to see all those people come together for this cause that we've created.
How often do you do those initiatives? How often do you do that? I know it's your first initiative, but are you going to do it on a yearly basis, or how is it going to work?
So the legal clinic and resource fair was so well received by the community and was so well received by the organizations who partnered with us on it. And definitely this is going to be something that we put on at least once a year. If I can get it together twice a year, I will. It's all going to depend on if I can juggle all that. But with a little help, I think we can make it happen. Definitely the Legal Clinic and Resource Fair are going to be a signature event for the EmpowerME Project. And the Power Up series that we do with Zaman, and we'll likely be expanding our partnerships in that area as well.
So how do you see it evolved in the next few years? I mean, you're doing so much already.
Yeah, so I definitely see it growing. For me, it was the logical place to start was with education. Providing legal education and providing information to people doesn't cost money. Doesn't cost anyone anything. So if an attorney is volunteering their time, it's really, I'm volunteering 1 hour of my time for a good cause.
Yes.
It's not costing me anything. I'm not, being burdened in any way other than spending an hour of my time for a good cause. So it was the logical place to start. I wanted to start that way so that people would have an understanding of what we do and what we are going to be doing.
Yes.
Phase 2, which I hope at some point, God willing, to launch in 2020, is the legal services component of our project. So with the legal services component of our project, volunteer attorneys will be taking on pro bono cases for women who come through our project and resolving legal issues that may be preventing a woman from gaining independence, or if something is holding her back that's a legal issue that she can't resolve without the assistance of attorney, if that's the only thing that's preventing her from moving forward with her life, or from being independent, or leaving maybe an unhealthy relationship is this legal issue, then our attorneys are going to work to resolve that legal issue so that she can move forward and so that she can grow and so that she can become independent.
I think you're doing an amazing job so far.
Thank you. It's been such a humbling experience starting this project and getting it going. And then
you didn't tell me, what was your inspiration?
So there were a few different things that inspired me to start this project. So it was a combination of a lot of different things. But a little bit was personal experience. I think that everyone has experiences that shape them and that, that help them grow. And for me, without getting into too many details, I was in a situation a few years ago that wasn't necessarily the best fit for me. And I made it
on a personal level.
On a personal level.
Okay.
And I, made a difficult decision to sort of say, this is not healthy. This is not necessarily what I want for my life. This is not where I see and where I envision my future. So I made a very conscious and very difficult decision to sort of say, I am not happy in this situation that I'm in, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get myself out of it and to leave. So I did.
To leave a relationship?
To leave a relationship,
okay.
Yeah. So I did.
Okay.
And the reason that I felt so confident in the conviction that I had to make that choice was because I had support, was because I had a family.
You mean family support?
Familial support, friends. Because I had education, because I was empowered by the knowledge that I had, and because I was very self-aware of what I wanted for my own life and you know, where I wanted it to go. And I had the ability and I had choice. I could make
But
choice.
did you have fear?
I
Were you
had
scared?
options.
A little?
No, I definitely wasn't.
Okay.
And I wasn't because I knew that I was making the right decision for my own self. And I knew that no matter what decision I made, I would have a family who would be supportive of that. But what I started to think about afterwards was what happens to people who don't necessarily have family support
Or education.
or who don't know what their rights are, or who don't have, you know, background knowledge of the law, or who don't necessarily have family or friends,
they would have stayed
or
in
who
a
might
bad
not have
relationship.
financial independence. I was employed, I had a job, so I wasn't dependent on, you know, someone else financially to care for me. But I started to think about, you know, what made me feel empowered and what made me feel strong. And it was having education, having knowledge, having that power that I knew, all the information and knowledge and education that I obtained, there was no one who was going to be able to take that from me.
So
And the family support
Yeah.
and the financial security and just knowing that you have choice and you have option.
So you feel that you made the right decision?
Definitely, every day. Every day I feel that I made the right
Are
decision.
you happy?
Definitely. But for me, it is, what can I do now? So maybe I went through this experience that wasn't the greatest, but are you going to let, whether it be my experience or any hardship that you face, any challenge that you face, it could be a relationship challenge, it could be a professional challenge, it could be a health challenge, it could be any sort of challenge that you're facing. Are you going to let that situation define you and bring you down and be, you know, are you going to focus just on that, or are you going to move forward? And how are you going to move forward? So for me, it was, I'm moving forward. This is the best thing for me. And I want to encourage and empower and inspire other women and other people to do the same. So that's the bulk of the reasoning behind why I started this project. I just have such a passion for inspiring and empowering women to, you know, be confident and to be, take charge of your own life and what you want for it. It might not be a popular opinion, but if it's what works for you, then you should do it.
So this decision that you made a few years ago empower you?
Yes. Yes, it definitely empowered me, and for me, it empowered me to want to do the same for others, because I thought, like I said, I thought about what sort of happens to people who might not have big families or who might not have support. And I thought about what the situations, like the dire situations that so many people are facing on a daily basis.
So what would you say to women who don't have family support, who don't have maybe family here, especially for Arab American women?
There are organizations out there. There are resources out there. While my project and the EmpowerME Project may not be fully set up to, you know, serve in that way, eventually we hope to be,
Yes.
you know, up and running in that way. But there are so many resources in the community that are available. And there is support, and it might not be family support, it might not be friend support,
Yes.
but you would be surprised at the kind of support you get from strangers.
I have probably one more question for you, and we have no time. You're only 34 years old.
Yeah.
You're a judge, and you have an amazing, you know, EmpowerME Project. So where do you see yourself like when you're 40?
I really don't know. I mean, I feel like you always have to be open to opportunity, and you always have to be willing to say yes if an opportunity comes and if it's a good fit for you. I don't like to say that in 5 years I want to be doing 1, 2, and 3. I don't know where this project is going to go.
So you're just going with the flow?
I'm going with the flow.
Okay.
Do I at some point maybe in my career see myself, you know, in a higher level judicial position? Maybe. When that's going to happen, if that's going to happen,
So
I don't know.
You're not planning.
Is this project going to take off and turn into something very big and impactful? I hope so. Am I going to spend all my time working on my project? I don't know.
Okay.
But I guess stay open to opportunity, and don't say no to opportunity out of fear of the unknown.
I want to thank you today. I mean, you gave so many good information about yourself for the people that don't know you, and for your wonderful organization, nonprofit
Thank you.
organization. You're a go-getter for sure, very smart, and a judge.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I listened to and watched the prior interviews with your other guests, and I have to just say that I'm even humbled to be in the presence of, you know, and considered amongst all of your distinguished guests who you've had before.
You are.
So thank
Very
you for the
successful,
opportunity. And I want to thank you for using your platform in such a positive way. I think it's so important that we highlight the success of the women in our community, because there really are so many shining stars who are going so far, and it's limitless to what we can accomplish.
Thank you so much
thank you for having me.
Here. Thank you. And that's it for here. تصبحوا على خير.